And let's assume we have copied these basic structures here. We can put them smaller. We have user, we have a post image, location, and component. Right? Because this diagram will be very big, we can use small structures first. And we will also have the location and component. Right? And we also have a component. Let's see, we can put the component here. Besides this, we have a bunch of attributes. Let me write down some basic attributes for the user. We can use some small structures instead. Now this each user in Facebook will have some keys, like a user ID, right? Because this user ID can serve as a key, we can do the underline for the UID here. Let me use an even small ones because the diagram will be very big. So for the user, we have a bunch of attributes. The first one is user ID. We can have the username. We don't do the underline for the name. This is a username. We can also have the full name, right? Let me use small fonts. The full name as well as other information, like age, or we can have date of birth. As well as like some other information. What do we have else? Besides this, we can also have some other basic like a self description. Right? Now we can use small fonts here. We have a self description. Each user can provide himself with some descriptions, right? And essential. You can also decide some other attributes we can have for the user. This UID is very special. It's the key, so we have one online as shown here, right? Then we can add some structure. Then we can add some lines to the attributes with the user entity. Let me copy this one. I'm joining with the keynote. Then we can do auto attach. You can also decide some tools or softwares you can use to draw the diagrams. I know there are some software can do this kind of functions very nicely for you. You don't need to draw with your Keynote or PowerPoint. We have mentioned some softwares in the syllabus as resources, right? You can check these softwares by yourself. And we can attach these attributes to the annotation. Similar for location, we also have some like a location name, right? For the locations. Maybe for location, we can use the name as a key. We assume so, right? Maybe in the real world, it's not the case, it's fine. Depending on your application, you can decide your key for your location. Besides the name, we can also have some other information like a coordinated pairs, right? Let me use small fonts, like we can use 15 instead. Because this one is not a key, so we can remove the underline for it. As well as some other information. What kinds of information can we have for the location? Maybe we can also provide some more concrete information, which like a state, a city, right? We can do the city for the location, as well as like a state. If it is in the United States, we can have the states or province in some other countries, right? We can also have the country, because we have so many attributes, it will be very big. We have country. Of course, you also have some other information like zip code for the location and extension. You can decide by yourself, right? We don't show them because we don't have much space for the locations. Let me move them above. so we can leave the space for the post. For the post, we have more information actually. When you write the post inside Facebook, generally you need to have an ID for the post as well. So we can write down as PID, right? Post ID. For post, we have some lots of information. We have post like a title, right? What's the title for the post, as well as the contents of the post. Something like that, right? We can move them all here. And for the images, we can also have some like normally you can, when you upload some images to the Facebook, you can also have the ID for the images. For image, you can also have the content of the image, which will be the bunch of pixels we have inside the image, right? Of course, inside image, you can also attach some person when you show the relationship later. We can add one to the user image. Now we can annotate, right? Some person or some user inside the image, something like that. Then we come to the component. We have for component, normally we have component ID, right? As well as the component name and some like location information for the component, right? We can also show them here. Then we can connect the attributes with the annotation. So normally you see when we draw the diagram, we need to change this or not. So before you do this diagram drawing, you need to have a brainstorming with your teammates to discuss all the potential attributes for the annotation and relationships, as well as what are the entities we have and the relationships we can have among the entities. It will be a very detailed thing. I mean, you need to spend some time on this for brainstorming. Otherwise, you may miss lots of useful information. The main reason is because brainstorming is very important before your project starts. You know, once we go through the implementation step, and you further want to do some changes to the diagram, it will be very costly because you need to change everything almost there. It will be a headache to change it later, right? So if you have any changes, do the changes as early as possible. Otherwise, you will suffer a lot from the changes. Okay, so let me attach the last two as well. So these are the entities we have, and we'll attach some attributes for them as well. The next one is come to the relationships, right? According to the previous page, we show some basic relationships as shown here. Now for the user and the post, we have three different relationships: the post, like, and share. Then we can draw the diagram as shown here by using the diamond. So to differentiate this relationship and the entities, we can also give it with a new color. We can change the color for the relationship. It's not necessary depending on your preference. I prefer to use different colors so we can see they are different things. And let me write down first one. We do the relationship for user and post first. Maybe I don't use a post. Post will be confusing, right? We can use write. And we can use like a upper node, right? For images. Let me do the write. And we can add some lines to the write relationship between user and the post. We add to the write, we add to the user, we add to the write, we add to the post. Normally we prefer to attach to the points. However, depending on the software you are using, you can attach it to the boundary. That's also fine. But we prefer to attach to the points. I have some problem with the software, right? We do the auto attaching, so attach it to the boundary by the software. So whenever you draw the relationship, ask yourself, what's the constraint on this relationship? We know that one user can write multiple posts, and one post can be returned by one single user, right? Then we can add one arrow pointing to user, right? It's a many to one or one to many, as shown here. Beside right, we can also have some like shear, right? We see here we have Nike, right? We have Nike, and we also have the shear. Like this, right? So then we can attach lines to them. It is similar. We prefer to attach to the points. However, if attach to the boundary, it's not good, but we can still accept that. It's also fine here, since we are doing an example here. Then the thing comes, whenever you draw a relationship, ask yourself, what are the constraints for the relationship? Now here we know a user may like multiple posts, and a post can also be liked by multiple users. Then it will be many-to-many, right? We don't need to add any arrows pointing to either sides. For the share, one user may share multiple posts, and a post can also be shared by multiple users. It is also many-to-many. We don't need to add any things here, right? Then let's come back to the user to the images. It will be too complicated. Maybe it's fine. We can just copy these relationships we have here, right? Because the diagram will be very big. Let me narrow down the space we have for that. So we have the first relationship between user and the image will be upload, right? The second one will be like. The third one will be share. Let me use small structure for them. And we can change the fonts so we can see the text. We use small fonts. I hope you can see them. Maybe I can enlarge slightly. We'll use 20. It works. Besides share, we can also have the annotate, right? And then we can add some lines, connects them to the annotation. So when you are drawing the diagram, you need to think about what are the information there. It's very important. It is also suggested to draw with either software or with pencils on your paper, so you can change them later. Okay, so we have attached all the lines. We prefer to attach to the points, to the angles. However, this software has some problems, so we attach to the boundaries, as you here. It's fine. Okay, then the question comes, whenever you draw the relationship, ask yourself what is the constraint on the relationship. So for the upload, one user may upload multiple images, and given one image, we can then identify one single user who uploads it, right? So we can add one arrow point to here, right, for the uploads. For the like, it's just similar to the user likes post. The user may like multiple images. An image may be liked by multiple users. It's many-to-many. Share is also many-to-many, right? Annotate. So a user can be annotated by multiple images. An image can also annotate multiple users. It is also many-to-many, right? Then that's fine for these relationships. Let's come back to the relationship between post and images. So a post can contain some image, right? We can add one relationship between them, like a post can contain some image. And then we can add some structure, some lines to them. So after we connect the lines, you need to ask yourself, what's the constraint for the relationship? So a post can contain multiple images, and also one image can be contained in multiple posts, so it will be many-to-many, right? Then we don't need to add any arrows to it. The next one will be the user and locations, right? So the user may check in at some locations. And we can connect them with some lines. Let me use a line here. The question will be, what's the constraint on this check-in relationship between user and locations? It will be many-to-many, right? One user can check in at multiple locations. One location can be checked in by multiple users. And next one will be the post locations. A post can mention some location, right? And we can add some lines to here. This relationship will also be many-to-many, right? For our application, a post can contain multiple locations, can mention multiple locations, and a location can also be mentioned by multiple posts. And the next one will be the user and complaint. A user may watch for complaint, right? And we can add some lines for it. For the relationship between user and complaints, it will be depending on the applications, right? Sometimes we want to model the current complaint the user is working for. Sometimes we also know some historical complaint the user has worked for. Right? Let's assume here we are modeling the current complaint the user is working for. Generally, a complaint can have multiple current users, and one user may work for only one single complaint at the current moment. So we can add one arrow pointing to complaint. Given one user, we can identify one single complaint the user is working for, right? So it points to the complaint as shown here. Then it will be the basic ER diagram we can model for our application. If we want to build a like toy Facebook, it will be something like this, right? For your ER diagram. Of course, you can also consider some more like relationships. The complaint can have a location, right? You can also add one relationship between complaint and locations and essential. So when you are doing your project, you also need to do in a similar way. Do the brainstorming first. Ask your teammates and yourself, what are the information we have? Entities, relationships, attributes. And based on your brainstorming discussions, you can have keep a note of all the information there, right? Then you can write, or then you can draw all the information with a ER diagram and something like this. We have entities, we have relationships, we have attributes. Okay, so that's it for this toy example. I think you are ready to draw your ER diagram for your application. Do the brainstorming with your teammates as early as possible. Okay, thanks for your attention. Let's come to the subclass.